a buyer, and usually it tends to be not necessarily the first-time home buyer, at least that I run across, is people who have financial planners who've actually managed their money for quite a while and looking to buy their second or third home. Really, the questions come up. What I've found, it comes to down payment. How much should I put as a down payment? What I'm comfortable from a monthly payment standpoint. So using that monthly payment within a budget and just balancing those two things out. And obviously that's going to equate to the kind of house they buy or investment properties they buy or second homes they buy. So it's overall, what I found on the mortgage side does play a huge part into somebody's overall financial strategy.
Well, Heather, that buying a house affects just about everything you do financially. It's going to affect your taxes because now it gives you an interest rate and a property tax deduction. It's going to increase your spending because you're obviously going to have to spend money for the mortgage and then for all the stuff you put in it. But it changes your net worth also. So what a financial planner would have to do is sit down and do some what ifs. If you buy this house and you do at this rate and this sort of thing, and figure out how much. First of all, find out how much house you can afford. And then the second thing, figure out how you're going to pay for it and where your cash flows are over time. And that's how they would meet. And then, then you sit down with those numbers and then you go to a mortgage broker and you say, okay, I'm looking for, a mortgage in this amount with this kind of an interest rate and this kind of thing, and let them work their magic.
Mm-hmm. I think you alluded to a good point too. Is when you buy a house, it's not just the house, it's not just the mortgage. You got to think about increasing property taxes. You got to think about maintenance and upkeep. The time that you're going to spend in maintaining the house. What's it going to cost in terms of energy? Mm-hmm. It's going to impact everything. So think about the size of family that you might have in that particular location. You look at school districts, you look at all kinds of different things that go into location and what kind of house. What is it going to be, a condo? Is it going to be so all those different things play into, the kind of lifestyle that you want to have. Mm-hmm. It's not just a place to sleep. It's a place to live and just enjoy with friends as well, perhaps.
Is it fair to say that these two paths do not cross as often as they should?
That would be a fair statement. That'd be a true statement. It should cross more often. Typically, we find in our practice, we get a phone call, well, we're buying a new house, or this sort of thing. Or we say, hey, we just found a house so-and-so, can we buy it type of thing. In an ideal world, there would be a team approach to everybody's finances, where you'd have an accountant, you'd have a lawyer, and you'd have all the people, and they'd all talk to each other. In reality, what happens is they usually don't trust each other, and they don't talk to each other, and everybody thinks everybody's stealing everybody else's account. Mm-hmm. But eventually, the mortgage people, we in the financial planning industry, we typically have to support the mortgage buyer because we have to show what the assets they've got and this sort of thing. So there's no reason we shouldn't be working together more often than we do.
Yeah, I mean, in some of the seminars that I used to teach for first-time homebuyers, it was you're buying your biggest asset, it's your biggest debt, and it's your biggest monthly payment. This should be fully integrated with whatever financial plan you have or you want to accomplish.
Right. And it does help to have minimal other debts as well, like car loans and personal credit cards and stuff like that. The lower you can keep your debt structure, the better. The more easier it's going to be to buy a home, actually.
Yeah. Well, I know both Ben, you and Ryan, you have a lot of clients that come to you where you have to clean up their credit and have them pay down stuff before they can buy a home or refinance, which is why I think talking to your financial advisor would be a good first step because they can help you go down that path. And one other question I had too is I assume probably a lot of people, want to buy a home and they have assets, but it might not be the best decision to switch those assets over to a down payment or something to use against a house, and maybe the better option is just to save and wait. And I'm assuming that's something that you might come across too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, go ahead,
No.
Glenn. We see this quite a lot too. It's a priority decision, and all financial decisions are priority decisions. So you spend on this now, or do you wait? Do you defer? And so you try and reduce it to an investment decision. Unfortunately, buying a house is an emotional decision. So you have a clash between the emotion of doing it and wanting to get into a house of your own and the reality that you may not be able to afford it or may squeeze you, for a while. And, sometimes people get surprised. They get into a house and they find, okay, I think it's great, and they find a huge repair they've got to make in the house right after they get in there, or there's something else. So it has to be there. You have to try and take as much emotion out of it as you possibly can, and that's a place the financial planner can help, because their job is not to get goofy about the emotions. Their job is to stay straight and look at the facts and give you the basic facts. But you still have to make the choice of whether you're going to allocate those assets to a down payment or whether you're going to let them grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on the mortgage side of things, there's always going to be that balance, and I think having a relationship with a mortgage professional and a financial planner working on the best interest of that buyer is going to make a huge difference, especially when it comes to that balance of down payment versus the costs of getting a mortgage and the interest rates that are available. So a lot of people come in and they want to put 30 or 40% as a down payment when they really don't need that much as a down payment. In reality, they could put a little bit less down and maybe use some of those funds to buy down the interest rate a little bit to get a better rate over time. So a good mortgage planner and a good financial planner can come together and really plan out and understand the client's objectives when it comes to that home, their housing payment objectives and their down payment objectives, to really find the best strategy. And that's something that's definitely not utilized enough. There's no doubt about that.
I want to ask you guys, mortgage guys, a question. Okay.
Yeah. I have a question too. I'm after Dennis.
It seems like mortgage companies have everybody's really tightened up their lending limits, but it also seems that when they do credit checks on people, the mortgage companies and the banks always look at the lowest of the three credit scores rather than looking at the top two. And almost everybody has, they have three different credit scores because there's three different models, and usually one of them is pretty low or lower than it should be. Is that a trend? I mean, is that something you're being told by your funding sources, that they have to look at the most negative things on a mortgage application?
Yeah, that's pretty consistent. That's the way it's been pretty much forever. Is the lenders will take, if you have two spouses, they're going to take the lowest of the two credit scores and they're going to take the middle of the three. Okay, so it's not always the lowest of the two on both sides. They're always going to take the middle of the three, so middle of the husband, middle of the wife, and then take the lower of those two. That's just their only way of really kind of assessing risk and saying, okay, if somebody is 750 and one's 650, are we going to say that that's a 750 borrower or is that a 650 borrower?
I'd say it's a 715 borrower.
A 750. Just take a middle average of the two. I think the whole
sounds fair.
Well, I think the reality is the whole credit scoring process is an absolute nightmare of a process in general. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It is incredible how. I don't know if corrupt is the right word, but how flawed the system is.
And a lot of wrong stuff on your credit report.
I have a really good friend of mine who's a financial planner. For 15 years, the most anal guy ever with an 800 credit score for 15, 20 years. His wife had one parking ticket in Kirkland that he didn't know about. His credit score went to 665 overnight. And it took him 3 years just to get that off his credit report. It's amazing.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It really is.
So.
And they make a lot of mistakes. You'll always find, if you run your credit report every so often, you'll find mistakes. You'll find things on your credit report that shouldn't be there, or things that have been paid off or whatever. You've got to monitor this thing.
I'd say 30 to 40% of the credit reports we pull have some kind of error on them. Either it's an error or there's information on there that the consumer just didn't know about. Like a collection is one of the big ones.
Right.
Yeah. That's always unfortunate. Well, I'm going to save my question until the roundtable. We do have to go to break. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Glenn. We'll have you all back on in just a few minutes. You're listening to Brashonomics. We'll be right back.